Welcome to the moment of truth. I just want to correct some mistake or misunderstanding in what I said in the first video of Wigwe, the victim of assassination. Non-Yelum Onoga said his father Wigwe Shingu Wigwe was a former Director General of Nigerian Television Authority. So where did he do the banking job? Please get your facts. I'm I'm now explaining to whoever, he or she, that yes, you're right. But he was the father, my insiders too, they watch it, they watch the video and they send me this message. I've already posted it there. Wigwe's father was not a banker. He was the Deputy General Overseer of the RCCG Lagos, the City Express Bank MD. So he used his influence. So Mrs. Adeoti and her father, Prince Adedoyin, were also RCCG members. So he used his RCCG influence or connection to get the 500 million naira share loan for his son, Albert Wigwe, to buy the Access Bank. I hope I made myself clear enough for everybody to understand in this video. Let's move on to another one, as another person accused me of being Wigwe person, because I didn't talk about what he did to I have the information on what happened, what he did to Akingbola family. They sent it to me when everything was hot, hot, hot. And my question was that the reason why some Nigerians are not sympathized for what happened to him or whatever? And is that the reason why many RCCG members don't even like him? They only taking his money. They didn't like him. They were not sorry for what happened to him. They were judging him. If you go to the comment section, it's so horrible. So nobody's sorry. It was like they were expecting what happened to him to actually happen. And I will put another voice note there, what they are saying about what he did to many people, including Akingbola family, who is also a RCC member. So all these pastors, they know what is going on. They know he was a thief and he has stolen from a lot of people. So they are collecting the money from him. Stay tuned. This person is is actually speaking based on his inside knowledge of what happened. The person says the story of Access Bank can't be complete without looking at its foundation. The money to buy Access Bank didn't come from any investors, but a loan of about 16 billion naira from Intercontinental Bank, IB, managed by Akingbola. It was Akingbola that gave them the break to buy Access. That money was never paid back. Sanusi, you all know Sanusi. Sanusi, AIG's schoolmate at KC, as the CBN governor declared IB insolvent and put it up for sale. It was offered to AIG and Access Bank for 50 billion naira. A bank that was many times the size of Access Bank. A bank with 350 branches offered for such ridiculous sum. You see? Check the records. No other bank has been so cheaply sold in Nigeria. Atiku did the same thing. They be selling our treasure, our treasury, our our everything to themselves at a cheap rate. Access Bank didn't have the money, but Evelyn Okutu of BOI, who is AIG's mother-in-law, gave them the loan to buy IB. They paid the funds, took over the bank, and then refunded the loan the next day. It was the biggest scam in Nigeria banking history. Of course, the 16 billion naira loan was never repaid. You heard though, all of you that is crying woe that we are talking, they've stolen the money that your mother and father supposed to have used to educate you. Because of lack of education, that's why you be crying and cover up for the thieves. Anyway, let's read on. I want to be clear that this is not talking evil of the dead. No, but setting the record straight. I do not hold the access scam against Albert personally, but I can't keep quiet when records are being misrepresented. Akingbola was literally destroyed, imagine. But all said and done, to what purpose is our rat race and wealth acquisition? May the souls, we don't pay for the dead anyway, may the Lord console their family. He left his old age parents, his younger children. So may God Almighty look after them and console them. So let me read on. The founding owners of Access Bank were Ijesas, the Ijesha people. They were led by Chief Farodoye. Another major shareholder at inception was Chief Lawrence Omole. The bank was a small bank that regarded as not well run. In the course of multiple recapitalization exercise dictated for all banks by the CBN, the ownership of the bank was diluted. The last MD appointed by the original shareholding group was Tokunbo Aromolaran. At that point, the bank had been listed on the stock exchange as were all banks. Somehow, AIG, Omokwede, and Albert Wigwe, who were AGMs at GT Bank, established a vehicle that secretly mopped up lots of the shares of the bank without the knowledge of the major shareholders. The funding was believed to be from Intercontinental Bank facility. Once they secure controlling shares, they consolidated their holdings and notified the authorities of their desire to take over the governance of the bank. They did everything by the rules except that they did so clandestinely. Once they took over, they re-engineered the bank aggressively. They also massively recapitalized the bank, thereby sidelining the older shareholders. AIG Imoku Ede took over as MD. After 10 years, he retired and Abba took over. One remarkable thing the duo did was to acquire Intercontinental Bank in very controversial circumstances during the last banking crisis, leading to the compulsory sack of some bank executives. All traces of Ijesha in the ownership of Access Bank were removed several years ago. So let's read on. In this part of the world, people don't speak evil of the dead. So it is understandable all the eulogies being poured on Abbas. One thing is sure, God is not wicked. I kept saying it. God is not a killer. He's not a wicked God. When I first heard the news, I asked God. I said, "Where is your mercy?" I didn't receive anything. I didn't receive any answer. Because how can a man, his wife, and his older son, the heir to everything he has, just perish like that? So God is not a killer. So let's read on. He is just. He is just. Our God is just. What we see is not what he sees. Exactly. He decides when we will all go and how we will go based on what he knows about our journey on earth. Exactly. A lot of what he knows about us, the world may not know exactly. That is why even men get the best tributes during their funeral. It's okay. It's not what the man says. It's what God says is the final. God is the final judge. Let's read on. Nobody is talking about how Abbas and AIG backstabbed Erastus Akingbola to take over Intercontinental Bank. Akingbola took Abbas and AIG in as sons and confided in them deeply. He loved them to high heavens. Unfortunately, he exposed himself to over-ambitious young men with clinical motives. He saved Access Bank from going down by supporting them financially with intercontinental funds. They both turned around to conspire with Sanusi to fraudulently take over Intercontinental with the support of this Peter side in what is the biggest fraudulent takeover in Nigeria. It is all rot what Atedo is saying in this video about Nigeria, about saving Intercontinental. You can only lie to the ignorant. Yes, to the ignorant world. God cannot be deceived. Atedo never wanted Intercontinental to survive. As at the time Access bought Intercontinental, they were still owing Intercontinental over 15 billion naira, and they bought Intercontinental for 50 billion naira. Fraud and betrayal. Nobody is talking about how Abbas betrayed the Doze family to take over Diamond Bank. The loan that Diamond Bank took from Access Bank, which was converted to equity, was resisted by the aged Pascal Doze, but his sons and Alex Oti prevailed on him. It eventually led to the loss of the Doze family legacy bank built over 2 decades before Abbas became a banker. Nobody is talking about how Abbas and AIG fraudulently took over the legacy Access Bank from the founder, late Chief Omole and Mr. Tokunbo Aromolaran of Oni, Lasebikan and Co. are in the most bizarre management takeover ever. The funds used for the acquisition were borrowed in part from Intercontinental Bank with the full support of Akingbola, who found brilliant young men to encourage. These are three old men who had put in decades of sweat to build their banks. Not even an atom of credit is given to any of these original founders today in what Access Bank is today. Yes, to the world, you can be a whiz kid, but to God, we all are pawns in his hands, and he judges our hearts. How can you play God and wipe off the footprints of sweat and labor? I do not want to talk about Albert as a boss. That's for staff of Access Bank to talk about. When I heard about his death, the way he left gave me a shock and wake-up call that all hearts are open to God. It is a compound tragedy that I will not wish for my enemy, husband, wife, and first son. God cannot be this heartless and inconsiderate of all the good deeds of Albert. That is probably the conclusion atheists would quickly come to because of their poor understanding of the God factor. God has spoken again and loud enough. It is left for those still alive to make restitution. Vanity upon vanity, all is vanity. One thing is sure, God will always be God, not to take everything away from Albert. He was visionary, brilliant, and ambitious. He could have still achieved a lot with decency and consideration. Betrayal is a spiritual sin. Undoubtedly, we have lost an Iroko tree. The eulogies should not make God look bad. May God comfort his aged parents. It is a tough one for them. May God comfort the three children left behind and not make this to affect their destiny. May God not visit the sins of the father on the rest of the children. It is expected that rocks will be thrown at me for this. No problem. Truth has to be told as I know it. AIG knows the truth, except he wants to be in denial. You guys have done very well, but it is not without hurting and betraying people who trusted you. Abba's death will haunt AIG for life. God will always be God. Sir, you heard it all my people. I'm speechless. AIG was also at that match, but he chose to go through another to travel with another helicopter or whatever. So something is fishing here. I see you my people in my next video. Bye for now.